Hey everyone, I'm going to film a video showing you how I like to blow out my hair. I currently have a keratin treatment in my hair, so I'm using products that are sulfate free. I also use the Redken anti-snapped just to help prevent breakage, and it's pretty soaked, so it's the perfect time to film a video like this. When I comb out my hair after conditioning and shampooing, I like to use a wide tooth comb. This is from Kevin Murphy, just to make sure there's no tats. And from there, I'll show you what I do. This is my favorite barrel brush. It's made by Moroccan oil. It's number 55. It's obviously well loved. Usually there's a sectioning attachment, but I've lost it. This is my personal brush. I also like to use these clips, and I'm using the Dyson blow dryer. I like to start my blowouts at the back of the head. The hair at the back of your head tends to be thicker and stronger. This varies from person to person, but generally that's the way it works. So when you're working on someone else, obviously you would be standing behind them. But when you're working on yourself, you're working from the back forwards. So just be mindful, if you're blowing out your own hair and you're pulling the hair towards yourself, that's going to create tension right here, and that's going to cause the hair to be straighter. You can try, instead of pulling it forward, to at the very least keep it to the side, and that will help you maintain volume at the root. When you're working on someone else, you want to make sure that you don't hold your blow dryer on the same spot for too long, or you can damage the hair or burn your client. While you move on to the other sections of your hair, you can place one of these elastic rollers in the dried portion, making sure your ends are smooth. Otherwise, you'll get what's called a fish hook. You'll see there's a little bit of volume in my hair. When you take your hair down to dry your next section, make sure you don't take out too much hair and that you don't leave the wet hair on the dry hair for too long, or you will undo the work that you've just done. Water or liquid will reactivate that curl. So the wet hair being on the dry hair that you've just blow dried, you want to avoid. If your goal is only to smooth your hair, then it doesn't really matter what direction you pull it in. But if you're trying to create volume, you want to create it right at the root. So you don't want to be pulling in all sorts of directions. You just want to be pulling up and out, but mostly just up. So this is what I mean when I say you want to lift the hair directly up from the root in order to create volume. I want to make sure to get that brush right to the root, and I want to pull up almost to a 90-degree angle as long as I can get the blow dryer in there. I wouldn't suggest doing this if you're going to try to create a updo afterwards, because it can sort of flatten out the root, but mousse helps ensure that that won't happen. I have a little bit of that in my root. I'll tag it in the video below. If you need to get moisture out of your hair quickly, or you're working on a hair type that doesn't dry easily, you can end up spending hours blowing out someone's hair section by section with a barrel brush. If you're working on the right hair type, you can go in with your blow dryer and sort of rough dry a little bit, letting a bit of moisture stay in the hair, and then go in with your barrel brush afterward. This is my hair after rough drying it just with my hands. I haven't gone through it with a barrel brush yet. Make sure you've got clean sections. It just makes it that much easier to see what you're doing and see where you need to go. So that's an example of when you have too much hair on your brush. It's just harder to get through for no reason. So just take a smaller section like this. Go back in with your barrel brush, blow it out. So much easier. So no matter how great you are at blowouts, depending on the person's hair type, depending on whether they have cowlicks or not, you might still end up with something like this. And there's a few ways you can go about smoothing that out. When using this brush, I go right in at the root and I pick it up. If you see a lot of static, like I'm experiencing right now, it's because there's been a lot of heat on my hair, and it's caused by dryness. So if you want to pop in there with a serum of some sort, this one's pretty heavy, I wouldn't recommend it. I will link a serum that I recommend below. Use a very tiny amount if you have a heavy serum, or it will make your hair look dirty. And very gently go over those flyaways with your serum. And you'll notice still, even though some of the flyaways are being treated by that serum, not all of them will be. And that's when you're going to utilize a hairspray. Very carefully going to use your flat iron. This is, again, one of those situations where you want to have a very clean section. And I'm using a tail comb just so I can get right into where we're experiencing the most static and bumps right here. You can also decide to part your hair in another direction. Sometimes if the hair is heavier on one side than the other, follow what the hair tells you. If your hair wants to go this way, go that way. It'll be so much easier. Going in with my flat iron, close to the root, but working quickly. And the reason we're working quickly is so I don't burn my scalp. And you can sort of create a bevel that will help what's sticking up like that be directed down. Take a little bit from this section, just a little bit. Clean section. Get this out of your way. Right to the root, moving quickly. Some hair is very stubborn. Some hair goes in all different directions. Each client will be different. So now that there's not a bump here, we're in better shape. There's still a lot of static. I'm going to go in with a little bit of the Davines. This is a medium hairspray. Looks like that. But instead of spraying it directly on my hair, I'm going to spray my hand. Then I'm going to rub, it smells so good. Rub my hands together and gently go over those flyaways. And then I'm going to spray my brush and go in with this.